especially in 2020 with a pandemic, shaky economy, human rights violations, and riots. What might be coming next, and why is it all happening? Leo Knighton Tallarico, a longtime professional astrologer, will show us the planetary movements behind all this transformation. Is it possible extraterrestrial beings are a part of all this? Sit back and enjoy the ride as Leo takes us on a journey into the cosmos, showing us humanity's movement into the Age of Aquarius, which will unite us all, even in the face of our world's challenges. And now, Perspectives from the Sky with Leo.
Hi everyone, Leo Knighton Tallarico, and we have another edition today of Perspectives from the Sky. And a lot of things we've been telling you about the world changing fast, transforming itself, and that there's a lot of things from the old world, the old system, that need to come down in order for the new world to be able to shine. And that happens in each one of us, any blocks we have to the Age of Aquarius consciousness, and in the world itself. And so we had talked about the economy, the stock market for this week that's passing, and also about Russia and Ukraine. And, they're both, that's what's happening. The stock market was down, I think every day but one, quite a bit this last week. And of course, Russia right on the verge of going into Ukraine. In fact, the United States pulled out its ambassadors, and it just sent a submarine ship to that area. And the name of that ship is the Harry S. Truman. Oh my God, what a horrible name to call it, knowing that Harry S. Truman is the one that called in the nuclear bombs to hit. Anyway, that's the one coming in Hiroshima, I'm talking about, back in 1945. So we definitely, military industrial complex, we've been telling you about that too. And the United States, Pluto, in its natal chart in the second house, is symbolic of that military industrial complex. And Pluto is returning to itself for the first time in the life of the United States, because it's been almost 500 years. 250 years. Mercury's still retrograde. We'll talk about that. It's been 250 years since the birth of the United States. And that's how long it takes for a Pluto return. 250 years. So you know that in your life, unless we have some unbelievably remarkable medical breakthroughs, none of us, including the person speaking or anyone listening, will be having a Pluto return in their lifetime. So it's pretty important. And like I said, it's the military industrial complex, and you can see things happening with it, just like we have been saying, because it represents military industrial means the armies and the navies and the police forces and industrial. You can update that, call it military economic complex, and that's the stock market and our economy. And what got hit last week? Those two places. So there's a transformation going as Pluto returns to itself, military industrial complex. It's time for a transformation of what it represents in our country, in the Western world, and in the world. And that's why the threats to it are happening. Because we in the United States, I don't think when we first started, had intentions of being an empire. Well, we are an empire. We are in the Age of Aquarius now. Last December, winter solstice. That was, in my estimation, the beginning of the Age of Aquarius in December of 2020. So here we are in the Age of Aquarius with an empire. When the Age of Pisces started, about 2,100 years ago or so, a big event near that time was the birth of Christ. At the same time as Christ began walking the earth, there was an empire, Roman Empire, many empires from then till now. And the big one now is where we live. And of course, you could tell me, well, it looks like China, Russia. Yeah, I guess you could say maybe they're an empire. I don't think so, because they don't really go outside their sphere so much like we have. We have invaded many, many countries, colonization. The Western world is doing a lot of that. You go into Africa, South America, you see Spain. Africa, you see France and Spain, Portugal, United States in many places, especially recently, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan. So the empire days are needing to end. And they are ending. And the hope is that we have the country that we started with, not in all ways. I mean, it's horrible what we did to the Native Americans and slavery and things like that. Those are real. But we had a lot of good principles starting on too. The Moon in Aquarius, the United States chart speaks to those. Of the people, by the people, for the people, equality. That's the world we want to come back to, is those higher values, the ones that Jefferson held. And then the other thing that was going on at the same time as those values was the banking system. And the United States was very much involved in thinking about big money even back then. So we've been split between the part of ourselves that's about the big money and the part of ourselves that are about these wonderful values that we started with. And of course, the big money causes things like slavery too, because when you get involved in greed and big establishments to make more and more money at the expense of everybody who's like not a part of it, then we have these atrocities in the world. So we're needing to come back to the basic values that are in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that's the great hope that I have. Remember, transformation. All of you have been through different transformations in your life too. So when there's transformation, it means letting go of what has been that no longer fits who you are moving into, who you are becoming, what life you're developing, what consciousness you're attaining. You're letting go of all that, and you're opening up and embracing that which fits who you are moving into, the life you are moving into, and the consciousness you are moving into, and the world is moving into. So we've talked a lot about this. And we've also talked a lot about how when Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were discovered, 1781 Uranus, 1846 Pluto, 1846 Neptune, 1930 Pluto, these were the times of great revolutionary energies, transformational energies, bringing us into a new world, beyond Saturn being the furthest planet out. Saturn being the furthest planet out had a lot to do with this patriarchal system that still sits in our world. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were the knocking on the door of the new age, wanting to come in. No more patriarchal rule of everything. The people, that's where we're headed. Of the people, by the people, for the people. And in order to move beyond that patriarchy, we need to experience, which we are now, the rise of the great feminine in this world, on this earth. By the way, Deborah Knighton Tallarico, who I know very well, will be on later. She'll be talking more about that, and also about something coming up very shortly in our world, which is Imbolc, which is right in between winter and spring. Modern world calls it Groundhog Day, but we know that our ancestors knew it from a much more sacred and ritualistic place. Deborah will fill us in on all that later on in the show. So we have what happened last week with the economy and with Russia moving into Ukraine. that is very, very likely to continue until they're actually in Ukraine. Doesn't look like there's much of a working things out. But Mercury's retrograde right now. Venus is retrograde right now. So things could shift. There could be some amount of appeasement that comes up. I doubt it, but it's possible. Again, Mercury and Venus retrograde. In your own life, don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Even if things have shifted a lot. Remember, when Venus is retrograde and Mercury is retrograde, we start questioning things in our life. Relationships get questioned. Big projects we're involved in, the direction we've chosen. Many things get questioned. And yes, it's true. They get questioned during those time periods. And sometimes the questioning leads to an actual change in the direction that we've chosen. But you need to let the process go all the way through before you know for sure. Even if your gut instinct is telling you, yes, my mind has got it. Got to make this big change. Just wait. Just wait until everything is direct. Like I always say to myself too, trust the process. Part of the movement from the patriarchy to the greater feminine is trusting the process. Everything's not about the goal. Everything's not about what you're going to win. Everything is not about what you're going to accomplish and be successful at. That's what we're programmed to believe is the most important thing. How about values? How about the way we treat one another? How about how we move in our conscious, in our unconscious, in our consciousness? These are all really important. So we have to trust the process that's taking us to whatever direction it's taking us to. Nothing wrong with having goals and even trying really hard with your will to attain some of those goals at times. But we're in relationship with something greater than us. That's the greater feminine's voice. And that thing that's greater than us is part of the conversation. So I'll call it universe. Someone else will call it goddess. Someone else will call it God. Doesn't matter. We're all talking the same thing. There's something greater than us. I'll use the universe, being an astrologer. So trust the universe. That doesn't mean you become passive. Trust the universe in relationship with you to go in the direction that's right. So you can kind of feel where the universe is at, and then you get in touch with your own self, your higher self. I don't like that word so much, higher self, but I can't think of a better one. Soul self, whatever you want to call it. That better part of yourself that's not your ego self is the part that connects with the universe, God, goddess. And that relationship is the important thing to get in touch with. And when you're in that relationship and you start trusting it and you can feel it, you start knowing things on a very deep level. Because remember, you're connecting with the source when you're meditating very deeply. And it's the same thing that I'm talking about. So trust the process. So Venus goes back direct on, it started on the 19th of December, it goes back direct on the 29th of January. Mercury just went retrograde recently, end of last week, and it goes back direct on February 3rd, 4th, depending on what part of the world you live in. And always remember, it's good to give Venus or Mercury a good 7 to 10 days before you're out of the woods and thinking and seeing clearly. Again, I say that so you hold yourself back from making any major decisions during that time, or major decisions about relations. A lot of people are really challenged in relationships right now, romantic ones, other ones too, family relationships, business relationships, but a lot of romantic relationships have been questioned and threatened. And so, some of you maybe really know in your gut, in your heart which way it's going right now. But it's good to play it a little bit safe, even if you think you know, and wait till it goes back direct again, both Venus and Mercury. And then make your big decision. And this is on all things in life right now. Now, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes circumstances are bigger than you are, than I am, than we are. And it's almost like fate blowing you out of the way to say, this is where it's at. Okay. I'll go for that at that time because I have no choice. It is fate. But if you can help it, wait to make your decisions. So this last week that we're moving past, the week that we starting on Monday with the new moon, and which was really powerful. Pluto in the new moon. And that was the full moon. Cancer full moon, which was Sun in Capricorn and Moon in Cancer. Remember, all full moons are Sun opposite Moon. All full moons. All new moons, Sun and Moon are in the same place. They're conjunct. So at that full moon, which had Pluto sticking right in it, Pluto was conjunct the Sun, opposite the Moon. It was powerful. It was especially powerful because the next day Uranus went direct. So all that, and then looking at the charts of different countries, and I have a stock market chart, and then my intuition after all these years, I put all that together. That's how I kind of have a sense of the things that were going to happen and did happen this last week. So now, remember that the transformation continues. Even if there's a rally in the stock market here and there for a week or so, it's headed downward. There's no doubt. It could be very fast. And there could be a couple of like comebacks here and there. Like, for instance, if there's some peace talks around the Russia movement. That doesn't feel like it's going to happen either right this moment. Again, Mercury retrograde. But if it did, that would probably shoot the stock market up for a while. But the planetary movements overall say down, 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 down with the stock market. And conflicts in the world continuing. Because it's the only way that the old system can be challenged. If it could be challenged in other ways, like if people just, leaders of the world could just get into the people revolution or something, where you say, okay, well, we got to change this without having to go through all these horrible things, then that would be wonderful. Or like some people tell me that I've talked to who, by the way, don't come on the air, even though they've had these experiences. So far, they don't. Of knowing from extraterrestrials, is what they say. And these are quite credible people to me, that maybe there's going to be a divine intervention, especially if we get to the point of almost using nuclear weapons, or if we don't do the job around climate change, then there'll be some kind of intervention. That can feel scary too, because we don't know who these entities are. But from the people I've talked to, and even when I used to interview John Mack, Harvard psychiatrist many years ago, who had interviewed people who had been abducted by what they called aliens, extraterrestrials, all said that the intention of those that abducted them, or those that they talked to, was to help us on the earth, because we were destroying ourselves and the earth. So it's always possible that there's an intervention. I wouldn't count on it. So let's take a little further look at what's coming up. So like I said, Venus goes direct on January 29th, and Mercury goes direct on the February 3rd and 4th. So you can look at like from the 29th of January till about the 3rd or 4th of February as a time of shift. Because what will be happening is there's a new moon in Aquarius on the 31st. In bulk, February 2nd. The Lunar New Year, same time, February 2nd. Year of the Tiger, sounds pretty ferocious. And then Mercury direct on February 3rd. So you can see there's a lot happening from the 29th of January to the 3rd of February. So that's one place in time to be concentrating on. Things will be shifting. Some of it's going to feel good because things are going to go direct. And you're going to have a new moon in Aquarius, moving out of the Capricorn time. And in bulk, which Deborah will tell you more about, but it's a time of initiation and halfway between winter solstice and spring equinox. And our buddy, the comedian, name is slipping me right now, did Groundhog Day, Bill Murray. And, that was an interesting movie, and same thing over and over and over and over again. At Groundhog Day, I had a experience back when I was living in Santa Fe. Deb and I were in Santa Fe, and I was like sleeping, and then I was kind of awake. I had a little bit of a fever, and I pictured this group of, I mean, didn't even picture, I feel like it was right there in my mind's eye, a group of black robed, it was all men, I believe, drumming and chanting, and it felt very powerful. Some kind of ritual or ceremony was going on. And then, Deborah let me know back then that that's an initiation time. So in some way, I was being initiated at that in-bulk time. So stay aware. Don't get yourself sick to find out, like I did. But it is a big major shift at that time. More from Deb later. So that's the one time period, the 29th through the 3rd, 4th of February. And then around the 16th or so, the 16th until the 20th, be the next shift. And then there'll be a full moon at about 28 degrees of Leo, or Leo in Aquarius, where full moon's a sun opposite moon. And that is an important spot that we've had past events at 28 degrees of Leo in Aquarius, going all the way back to 2017, total solar eclipse in August of 2017. So that's whenever something like that happens, an important event, a total solar eclipse, by the way, means that's kind of a degree that can, if other planets are touching it later, it triggers something, because that was a powerful time back then. You remember? You had Trump and the leader of North Korea were strutting, macho strutting, who's going to, and then there was the Virginia. In Virginia, there was the kind of the beginning, the recent beginning of culture war in Charlottesville, Virginia, where a woman was run over by a car, actually, and killed when the Nazis and far-right supremacists were creating a rally which was being challenged by the far left, Antifa, etc. And so that was a very intense time of culture war and conflict. That's back when Trump said, there's good people on all sides there. So January 6th of 2021, we find that the culture war going to another level, as the Capitol was invaded by all those people. And they are all, many of them are being investigated, including Donald Trump. And I can tell you that it's my opinion that he's mostly done. Now the people that follow him, I don't know that they're mostly done. In fact, if anything happens with him, they could really rebel and make the culture battle more difficult for everybody. That's quite possible. Donald Trump himself, nah. I could be wrong. Mercury's retrograde, but I don't think so. So around that time, February 16th to the 20th, on the 19th and the 16th is that full moon, could be an important one in Leo Aquarius Leo. And the first exact Pluto return for the United States. First one that's exact. It's always been kind of close this last year, but the first exact one is on February 19th. So mark that on your calendar. Turning point. There'll be other passes later this year and next year. Right before Pluto goes into Aquarius for like 20 some years from 2023 on. And that's something we'll talk about soon. That's going to be a powerful time. Age of Aquarius, Pluto, guardian of the underworld, going through Aquarius for those 20 years. And it hasn't done anything like that for 240 some years. Because after it was in Pluto and Capricorn at the United States birth, then it moved into Aquarius a couple of years later, which is what it's going to do again. So that should be a powerful time period. So then the next time, remember now we got the 29th through the 3rd or 4th. Then we've got the 16th at the full moon through about the 19th when the Pluto return happens. And then the next little, I'm not going to go through the whole year, but the next time period, recent time period, or coming up time period shortly, will be from March 1st to March 3rd or 4th. And what will happen during that time is in early March, Venus, Mars, and Pluto. This is an important one now. Venus, Mars, and Pluto will all be conjunct in Capricorn. This is after Pluto's gone through its first return. So then Venus and Mars will catch up to it. And that'll be a powerful moment, especially the Mars-Pluto part of that. Remember, military-industrial complex. So a lot of shifts around military and economy should be happening around that time. I'm not going to take us any further than that right now, except to just briefly say that February, you got that down. March continues with more powerful times around the equinox. And then April is also a very strong time. And at the very end of April, there will be a solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Taurus, which is exactly where Uranus changed directions earlier this week, right after the full moon. So that'll be an important solar eclipse because it also triggers the moment that Uranus actually went direct. And Uranus itself will be in that new moon structure. It'll be at about 13 or 14 degrees of Taurus, while the solar eclipse is at 10 plus. So that'll be another powerful time period. And then I'll just skip over to the next big event, and that'll be on May 15th. On May 15th, there'll be a lunar eclipse, full moon, at 25 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio. So it's a lunar eclipse full moon in Scorpio. Of course, full moons are sun opposite moon. And if you got anything in around 23 to 27 degrees of any of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, it'll be quite a powerful time period, as will if you have something around the solar eclipse numbers, which will be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 degrees of fixed signs. So the United States moon is very close to that lunar eclipse. And there are many countries that have important planets at that spot. So not long after that, Mars will conjunct Jupiter in Aries, like on the 29th, at 3 degrees Aries, very closely square to the peace-loving Venus in Cancer of the United States natal chart. So I don't have to tell you much more about that. You know what kind of times are coming, are here, and will continue to come. But you and me, we're a part of this new world that's coming. Don't let fear take over your heart. Feel it. Yeah, we're human. Of course, we're going to feel some fear sometimes with some of the things that are here and coming. But the world that's moving in is what we can connect to and attach to. And remember the frequency you're on. The frequency you're on has much to say about what your life is going to be. You know, some of you had like really bad patterns in relationships or jobs. Or you can take all the way back to your early family life. Um, and then you learn how to go through a transformation, get on a spiritual path, see things in a different way, awaken to new ways of looking at things, connect your heart and your mind to new consciousness. I know many of you that listen to this show, that's been your path, or you're beginning it, or you're about to. And so you had to let go of parts of your life, and then you move into these new parts, and your life changes. As the energies that you're involved in change, as the people you're associated with change, as what you bring into your life changes, everything changes with it. And you start drawing to yourself and attracting to yourself different situations, different people. You get more and more into your authenticity as a person. You get more and more into what your sense of purpose is on this earth. You get more and more in touch with you deserve love. You deserve to have a good life. Not just in your mind. You can't read a book and it says, rah, 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 you deserve it, and then it's already changed. It's got to go down deep inside. You got to start feeling these things. That's why it's good to have counseling. That's why it's good to meditate. That's why it's good to spend a lot of time in nature, listening to music that uplifts you and makes you feel calm and good and peaceful. Because these are the things that are going to take you into your new world. You don't want stress to run your world. So when you leave the old paradigm, which is every man for himself, remember that one? Every man for himself is what evolution's about. The strong do survive, but right now, a sign of strength is the ability to go into new zones in your consciousness and to gather with other people to create this new world, to change this new world. That's the survival of the fittest now, is we, the people, doing it together. Not every man for himself. Every man for himself just destroys all of us. It's what built the nuclear weapons. It's what makes some people so greedy that they take all the money and leave nothing for anyone else. That paradigm is destroying our human family and this earth, because ultimately people care more about, that are in that paradigm, care more about their own wealth and their own benefits in life than they do about the human family and the earth. You're not one of those people. It doesn't mean you're a goody two-shoes or you're better than everybody else because you're such a wonderful person, because that's not true at all. That's not what this is about. It's not an ego voyage. This is about a natural movement of evolution. And you're not doing it just for everyone else. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself. I don't mean in a selfish, egotistical way. I mean, you're doing it for yourself, and that you want to be a part of these new energies. It feels so much better to be a part of the new energies. I can tell you that for sure. It feels much more wonderful. So you do it for yourself too. But at the same time, you're doing it for yourself. You become a part of something much greater than you in the universe and in the human family community. So I've been blabbing for a long time. I think we have someone on deck that you're going to appreciate. And then at the end, I'm planning on coming back on again and just kind of going over a lot of things we've been talking about. But right now, let's bring on Deborah Elelia Knighton Tallarico. I think she's all ready. Deb, yes. Are you there? There you are.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, there's that light laughter and lattes up there again.
How does it get up there all the time? Okay, anyone that sees light laughter and lattes, I don't know how it's there, but this is Perspectives from the Sky. That's the show.
Yes.
And I appreciate the people that do love laughter and lattes. They're wonderful people, have a wonderful show. They really do. But that's not the show.
Right.
We're going to have to fix that. But anyway, don't pay attention. Pay attention to the woman that's going to talk to you now and share with you her knowledge and her wisdom. Deborah, take it away.
Yes. So you started to touch on some of what I was going to talk about a little bit. And like you were saying, it's a powerful time coming up with Venus going direct from retrograde, been retrograde for a long time, like 40 days or so. And and then that same day that Venus goes direct, the Venus and Moon in the evening that day, because I think Venus goes direct really early in the morning, and then in the evening, the Moon and Venus conjunct each other. We won't be able to see it in the sky because the Venus is only going to be in the morning sky now. But if you wake up really early in the morning, like Sunday morning, you might be able to see Venus right near the very crescent moon. So that's
Talk
really
about the rise of the feminine. Those are the two feminine planets in the astrological world.
Yes. And in my studies over the last few years with Venus alchemy, it's whenever the sun and moon come together, the moon and Venus come together, it's considered one of the gateways in the cycle of Venus. And it's connected to Inanna and the descent of Inanna to the underworld and then her rising. And it all corresponds with Venus in the morning sky and Venus in the evening sky. And when she conjuncts the moon in the waxing, when it's the moon's waning in the mornings, it's in the morning sky that they join together. And then when she's in the evening sky, they join together. The waxing crescent moon is when you can see them together. So anyway, it's a gateway. And this is going to be the first gateway, which is the Crown Chakra. So there'll be themes around working with and healing issues connected to your Crown Chakra in that month between the gateways of Venus. So between January 29th and the next gateway, which I think is February 26th or something. So, and then right after that, as Leo already talked about, we have Imbolc. We have the new moon on the 31st, right? And in Aquarius, which is considered, the new moon of Aquarius is considered lunar Imbolc. I can really feel Mercury retrograde, by the way, with the different words coming out. Yeah. And then 2 days later, after lunar Imbolc at the new moon, is actually the celebrated time of Imbolc.
Tell us about Imbolc. What's its history?
So I'm going to talk about that. Yes, and it's also a powerful day that day because it's 02/02/2022.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it's another like portal gateway, and then there's all those twos, all those twos again, which have to do with relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like there's a real emphasis this year, as we talked about in our New Year's special. There's an emphasis on sacred relationship and the sacred marriage within, and that, the partnership coming together, which is interesting. I think our world really needs that right now, that energy. Sure. So to Imbolc. So Imbolc, it's a Celtic word, and it means in milk. Huh. And it's when, that's the root of the word. And it's when the sheep began to lactate in preparation before spring. Huh. That's where the word comes from. And it also means in the belly. It's like in milk, Imbolc, in the belly. So it's in the belly womb of the mother that new life starts to spark. So that's really what Imbolc is all about. It's like it's the midpoint between, the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and the spring equinox, right? And in the summer in the southern hemisphere, Imbolc is opposite Lammas. So in the southern hemisphere, they're getting ready to celebrate their first harvest of the year in the southern hemisphere because it's between their summer solstice and their fall equinox. So, but up here in the north, in the Celtic, and from the Celtic tradition, it is Imbolc. And it's like a sacred doorway. It's the time when The priests and priestesses would renew their spiritual vows. And it is very much connected to the goddess Bridget, who was the most beloved goddess of ancient Britain in the Celtic time.
Who's she like?
What's that?
Who is she
What's
like?
Yeah. So she is the goddess of the triple flame. So you often see flames coming from her head, or her holding flames. She's somewhat like Vesta or Hestia in those traditions, because she's like a goddess of the hearth. But her triple flames are connected to they're considered the flames of inspiration. So the first one is inspiration, and the bards would always call to Bridget when they needed inspiration for their, their writing, their poetry, their, all the things they would do, their sacred theater. The bards would call upon Bridget. And the second flame of hers is the flame of healing in the hearth. Like I said, so she's like the goddess of the hearth and also of healing. And also the third one is of smithcraft, like the forging of the sword with the fire that forges things. And she was so loved that they, when the Catholic Church and the Church took over more in Britain, they turned her into a saint because she was so loved by the people. And
so she's got the pagan connection and the religious connection, both, Bridget.
Yes. And so the sacred day of Imbolc is also St. Bridget's Day. Bridget's Day, Brigantia. It has all these different names. And another thing that I found interesting is that, so Candlemas is also the other name for this time of year, which is connected to Mother Mary's, it's 40 days from the birth of Christ, or Christmas. Imbolc is, or Candlemas. And it's a time of honoring that. And in that tradition, in the Christian tradition, they would anoint and take out all their candles to bring that, to represent that light, that spark of, it is also known as the Festival of Lights, long before Christianity. So it's that time when that little stirring, very little stirring in the seeds under the earth, because it's still winter. But there's those first little inkling in the womb of the earth, in the womb of the mother, that tell us spring is going to come.
So that's where the groundhog comes from.
Yes, and that's where groundhog comes. And it comes, and it's actually connected back to ancient Britain and Ireland and Bridget's snake coming out of the ground. That's where it originated, with Groundhog Day. So it is very much connected. Groundhog Day and Bridget's Day and Imbolc, they're all obviously connected at the same time. But it's that, and think about the groundhog rising and the snake rising, like something in them inspired them to rise then, right? So there's that feeling, and it can be, Imbolc can be, in the heart of the winter. So it brings hope when you tune into that there's something stirring, and the seedlings that are inside of you that you want to bring into creation and fruition in your life, the visions you have, you might feel them starting to take a little more form during Imbolc time. And it's a wonderful time to cleanse your hearth and your altars and reconsecrate your sacred spaces, your altars, your sacred objects, and to rewrite your spiritual vows. So is that because the ancient priests and priestesses, that's what they would do. They would rewrite their vows for the year. I'm trying to see if there's anything I left out. Bridget is also, so she's connected very much with fire and the fires of inspiration, but she's also connected with the wells. She was the one who overlooked many of the sacred wells in Britain. So that also has a lot of meaning. And she's also very connected with Avalon, which is the Isle of Apples. And it said that Bridget had an apple orchard in the other world that the bees would go to receive magical nectar and bring that back from the other world. And that's another very interesting thing about Bridget and that connection to Avalon. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else connected. I don't know if you have any questions, Leo, or comments on that.
Yeah, even off the subject just for a second. Christine Buckingham always writes to us often in the chat line. And
yeah,
this is very cute. Thank you, Christine. She said, hope you two don't mind me saying as a compliment that you two remind me of Diane Keaton and Al Pacino.
Oh my gosh.
I was just thinking they were together like in The Godfather 3, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's and let me answer for her very quickly too. She wanted to know what dates the two planets are going direct because she didn't get on early. So Venus is going direct on the 29th of January, and on the 3rd of February, Mercury goes back direct. Thanks, Christine, for all that. Yeah, as far as Imbolc, like I had mentioned earlier, it's really been a powerful time for me, especially that 1 year when we were in Santa Fe.
Yeah,
so I know.
And it's because it's a time of initiation, but it's very deep initiation. So in the Great Wheel of the Year, right? Or you could call it the Celtic Wheel of the Year, the Goddess Year, the Goddess Wheel of the Year. And it's in all different cultures that they honor, like, you know, the equinoxes and solstices, but also the midpoints in between. And I've always felt that the midpoints in between, like Imbolc, Beltane, Lammas, Lunasa, and Samhain, were the more mystical and inner, more subtle times and shifts in the Wheel of the Year. So it's a very subtle shift. Sometimes it might not always feel easy either, because there's like, you know, when something's getting ready to spark, it might not feel as comfortable. So it's a time to just like tune into the subtleties in your soul and in the earth as that shift is just starting to happen before spring. So, yeah. And it's a time. Yes.
Yeah. What can people do with all the intense shifts and Mercury and Venus being retrograde and all that? What do you advise people do as far as their spiritual practices or altars or meditations? You know, what can people do so they feel connected and calm and centered during times when they're intense and difficult?
Yeah. Well, I think always, you know, meditation is really important, as most people know. And, you know, being in nature with the earth, connecting to the trees, connecting to the ocean, the rivers, wherever you live. And for me, another thing that really helps me is divination, divining, you know, working with oracles. That always helps me. Journaling is really important, I find. Like you said earlier, you know, music, but you know, that meditation and movement too, dance, movement, qigong, tai chi, yoga.
How about altars?
And building altars, yes, because altars are like a way that we set a sacred space, and it's like as we set that external sacred space, it kind of serves as a mirror, as a reflection to us of our own inner sacred space. It's almost like, because when I have lots of altars, as you know, all over.
I know.
And the altars, like, it's kind of organized, and it brings different elements and energies together. It's like there's almost like a little bit of an order to it in a way, and an honoring of the elemental forces and the elemental energies. And it's a reflection of bringing that balance and that sacred space inside of ourselves. I often sit in front of my altar. I have many altars, but the one I sit in front of, it helps me get centered just to sit there.
As Christine says in the chat, she says that's an altar right behind you that's pretty beautiful.
Yes. And so that's an altar right there too, that I have different sacred objects on, and the elements and candles and I have my rattle and things that I need for when I'm on Zoom. But all those things, you know, creating an altar is really important. And this year, you know, with the new Venus cycle oversouled by Capricorn, which is the wise woman energy, you know, it would be also a wonderful time to make an altar to your ancestors and to do that deeper ancestral healing and that work. And that's why I got so inspired to offer the new program that I'm launching now, is to really help people. It feels like this is the time now to do that deep healing and clearing of our ancestral lineages, of dismantling the patriarchal energies, any hierarchical energies, the energies of the old world, so we can really clear the pathways so we can bring in and seed the new earth. So we have to do that clearing, you know, any karmic residues left over, so that we can come into alignment and with our higher selves, our soul essence. And so we can do what we came here to do on the earth, because we all have a greater purpose. And many of us have been called at this time to come forth on the earth to help in this great transition. So, and the, you know, altars help, and that deeper work, that spiritual work, healing work we do, working with our past lives, our inner child, all that healing is really important right now.
Deb, do you think that you could tell people about this program you've got starting, or at least about the initiation, or the day they can find out about it? And then also, I think we might have a little bit of time, just lead us into a short meditation to end the show so people can feel that kind of inner connection.
Sure. So I got really inspired I've been working with the cycle of Venus in my Venus alchemy class for the last few years. And I just got really inspired with this Capricorn energy. And because I have Venus in Capricorn, that's just gone through her own transformation with Pluto. And so I'm really starting to feel the energies of the wise woman. And I've always worked with that wise woman energy in my sacred circles with women in my priestess trainings, and it's even stronger than ever right now. And so I got guided to offer this journey through the cycle of Venus and through 18 lunar cycles, through the seasons of the earth, to guide a group of women through this time, and to make that descent and ascent with Venus, Ishtar. And it's to clear we're going to be clearing our chakras of all the old belief system, patriarchal, hierarchical programmings, our ancestors. We're going to do ancestral work that won't just help ourselves, but it'll help our ancestors and all future generations. So it's very powerful. That ancestor work it has so many ripples out. It helps on so many levels. And then we're also going to do karmic work and past life work. And so the beginning of the journey, the first 8 months, is going to be that, the clearing, the dismantling. And then we're going to do some deeper inner child work and shadow work, working with our shadow side and past lives. And then the last 8 months is going to be focused on retrieving and remembering and reclaiming our sacred gifts from our ancestral lineages, from our past lives, and this is, you know, and our live star and earth lives, like our gifts, like really reclaiming and bringing forth our gifts and reconsecrating all our chakras, rebalancing, reconsecrating them, and reconsecrating our whole self as a temple of the divine feminine. So that's going to be, and I think, you know, this is so important that we all, men and women, reconsecrate ourselves as a temple. And as we do that, we help reconsecrate the temple of Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is an amazing temple.
How can people get involved in this, Debs? How can people get involved?
So next Saturday, I'm having an introduction on the day Venus goes direct, the day of the first chakra gateway, when Venus and the Moon are conjunct each other. Next Saturday at noon Mountain Time. If anyone's interested, and then I'm going to have so I'm having a ceremony in an introduction and question and answer on the day Venus goes direct, and also on the day of Imbolc. So I'll do an Imbolc ceremony. I'll do a ceremony on the 29th. And it's just a chance for people to get to know my work more and ask questions and learn about, Imbolc and celebrate Imbolc, and also the Venus going direct. And so people can just, email me at Elelia, which is ELELIA at GaiaSophiaTempleOfTheHeart.com. And if you just go to GaiaSophiaTempleOfTheHeart.com, you can find out all about the program. It's called Path of the Goddess. And it's the Wise Women Priestesses of the New Earth. And it's a divine feminine empowerment program. But it's all on my website. But you can come for free and enjoy those ceremonies and find out more if you're interested. And so would you like me to play my bowl just for a moment?
I think that might be, just let me tell people real quickly that we'll be back in 2 weeks. So what is that? February 5th, we'll be back with our next show. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me for readings and things like that, transformational counseling, just write me at Solus, SOULUS, at AOL.com. And yeah, Deb, that's a great idea. Take us out with that. That'd be wonderful.
Okay. So let us just tune in inside as we hear the sound of the crystal singing bowl. And just bring your awareness into your belly, into your heart, and just tune into the sacred time that we're drawing near. We still have like 10 days before we get to Imbolc. You might want to just sense anything that's stirring inside of you. Any little seedlings of like inspiration, new visions you had, and just feel those little seedlings inside you. As you also tune into the energy of Mother Earth, and just feel Mother Earth underneath you. And just become aware of what are those little seeds. Inspiration. New visions. That are just beginning to get their first little sparks of light. Just honor those things. And just allow yourself to use these next couple weeks through Venus going direct, Mercury going direct, through Imbolc and the new moon, and just use this time to really be inward, consecrating your altars, your sacred spaces, and tending to little seeds, journaling, doing divination, meditation, all those things to bring you into sacred alignment with this subtle and beautiful time. And just listen to whatever inspiration.
Something's happening with the sound. It's not coming through, Debs.
Can you hear me?
Now I can again, yes.
Okay.
Too far away, it might have been. It's hard to hear the sound. But what I did hear really helped. It's really good.
Good. So thank you, everyone.
And everyone, we will see you in a couple of weeks, back with Perspectives from the Sky. And it'll be 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye.